Hello once again, everyone. Good afternoon and very welcome. And thank you for dialing into the webinar of today, the implementation of the Council of Europe's recommendation for the use of artificial intelligence in prison and probation services. Very welcome. My name is Justina Jenko. I'm the Deputy Director of EuroPris. I see people are more and more joining, but for those of you who don't know EuroPris, we are a network organization connecting European prison services and practitioners in the whole Council of Europe region. We have 41 members. We organize different events and activities for our members, and such as expert groups, and we have an observer status at the Council of Europe. We are delighted to bring ICT experts today together, practitioners and also policymakers, to discuss the newly published Council of Europe's recommendation on the use of AI in the justice field. Yeah, these recommendations, they are a critical step in shaping the future of justice and as well rehabilitation. And they help to ensure that AI technologies are used ethically and effectively to improve our systems. Therefore, we will have a closer look today at the process of the drafting and implementing the recommendation regarding the ethical and organizational aspects of the use of AI and related digital technologies by prison and probation. That's, by the way, also the original title of the recommendation. We will also explore the more practical area, practical use and implementation of these recommendations, as well as some challenges, risks, and also opportunities they present. Today, we have a fantastic lineup of speakers for you, who are all part, by the way, of the EuroPris ICT Expert Group. I will introduce them later, and they will share their insights with you today. We look forward to an engaging discussion. Thank you for joining us once again for the first event of the year in EuroPris, by the way. So we are looking forward for the next 2 hours to spend with you today. I have some housekeeping before we start. So that's why also I would like to introduce Brody Bavic, our communication manager, and as well Alicia Sonntag, she's our intern in EuroPris. They will support a lot behind the scenes. Brody will focus more on note-taking and reporting, and Alicia will help and manage with the chat in this webinar. So let me explain some things before we start with the content. If you have any questions during the webinar, please, everything what is related to content, type them in the Q&A window, which you see below. And we will address some of them in the panel discussion later. Of course, we won't be able to address all of them, but we hope to address as much as possible. Please know that the chat itself is disabled for attendees, but if you have any technical or organizational questions, please address them only in the window chat to our hosts. Then Alicia and Brody will see them, and they will try to help you with technical questions or if you have some issues later on. So Q&A for content and the chat for technical things with the host. Okay, recording. We record the webinar and put it on our homepage later after the event. As well, we try to make a report, a summary, and make it available for our members. It will be as well on the homepage 1 week after the event. So feel free to check from time to time so that you are updated on this aspect. Now I would like to ask all of you to sign in your full name, please. So on the right corner of your image, of your video, you have a blue icon and the 3 dots. Please click on them, and then you can rename yourself so that we also know where you are coming from. So full name and organization, please when you are a participant of this event. Also, you have the possibility to see our webinar in different viewing options. So you can click on the view icon on the right top corner in your Zoom window and, for example, choose the gallery view or the speaker view, depending on your preference. Okay, now I would like to start with the Menti question, also to see who is joining our webinar. So some questions to you at the audience. Most of you will know how Menti works, but I would like to explain it for those who maybe use it the first time. Take now all your phones and scan this QR code you see now. If not, you can also go to the website, which is displayed, mentimeter.com, and there you enter this passcode 69686170. So you will be able to take part in our small poll so that we see who is with us today and from which countries. So we will have the QR code and we will be able to go now through some questions with you. Alicia is managing the Menti, so I hope it works. And I hope we'll be able to show you some of the answers in case you started already. Oh, okay. Now I see. We have a lot of countries, prison services areas. I see Germany, Luxembourg, UK, Ireland, all over Europe, Scotland, Greece, even Georgia. Very welcome, everyone. Lithuania, even the Netherlands, that's where our office is. Nice. Poland, Portugal. Okay, very nice. Let's go to the next question. Now, not where are you from, but the next question is, what is your professional background? So we have a lot of prison professionals. That's sometimes an overlap with ICT professionals. We have some academics, NGOs, and others. Very welcome. It's always good to have a lot of disciplines and yeah, to be able to learn from others and other areas too. Very nice. Okay, next question. Yeah, it's now a bit related to our content. When was the last time you think you used AI? On the very top today. Yeah, that's what I expected. Within the last week, it's on the second place, some of them. We have also yesterday, oh, and some typed in never, but it's the least. Very interesting what our experts say to this. And the next one, last but not least, just some words. AI, what is it for you? Some find it helpful, useful, risky, an assistant, system, dangerous, ethically, fraud, a tool, great, ChatGPT. Okay, good to see. Thanks for participating in this. And yeah, let's move now to our panelists. So I would like to show you as well a small structure before I introduce the panelists of today. So just that you know more or less what we aim for. We will have the first part of the webinar, two panelists who were involved in the drafting process, and they will explain to us the recommendations and how the process of the articles developed. It's Håkan and Pia. I will introduce them in a moment. Then we try around 2:35 to have a small exchange with the audience regarding the recommendations. So all the questions you have regarding the recommendations, then will be time for that. And later on, I will introduce three more experts and we will have a small panel discussion in general about the AI and more the implementation and the practical use, so that our members also know what we should do now with the recommendation, now where it's published. And in the end, around 3:45, we'll have a wrap-up, so that you know what you can expect today. Okay, thank you. Now I would like to invite Pia Puolakka and Håkan Klarin to the floor. Thank you, the two of you. So they are joining us today, and both of you are also experts in the EuroPris ICT Expert Group. Both of you were selected for the Council of Europe's PCCP working group as scientific experts during the drafting process of the recommendation. It is an honor as well for us that the two of you are in the expert group and were part in this important paper. Pia Puolakka, you're a project manager in the Smart Prison Project and Criminal Sanctions Agency from Finland, and Håkan Klarin, you're a Chief Information Technology Officer from the Swedish Prison Probation Service. Very welcome, the two of you. And yeah, we hope
Thank you.
You have a broad overview about the use cases later on, the audience, and also that we have some productive conversations with you, with the two of you and other colleagues of yours. And now I will give the floor to the two of you. Pia and Håkan, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Justina. Thank you.
Thank you, Justina. I guess we now have an interesting moment when I try to share my screen. So just one moment and let's see what happens. But we've been rehearsing this.
Yeah, the screen sharing part as well, right?
Yeah. And how do you think it looks right now?
I think it looks good. I can see it
Yes.
anyway. Yeah.
Great. So the full name of the paper is Ethical and Organizational Aspects of the Use of AI and Related Digital Technologies by Prison and Probation Services. And just to correct a little bit, I used to be a project manager for Smart Prison Project, but nowadays I'm a team leader in Prison and Probation Service of Finland, but I'm still very much involved with digital services and AI and our digital projects. And I think we proceed.
Yeah. And to start off and talk about this, the recommendation that you so properly introduced, Pia, we would like to start with another recommendation and another document which is very, very important, and that has laid the groundworks for our work. It's the treaty on AI that the Council of Europe has adopted here in the middle of May. So if you have not read it, we really would like you to click on this link and to go to the portal of Council of Europe to find out about this first international treaty which is binding within the field of artificial intelligence. And this is a great platform for us in order to develop the recommendation for the prison and probation sector. So I stop there.
Yes, exactly. And yes, the first ever international legally binding treaty for the use of AI systems and the recommendations for prison and probation services are definitely aligned with this general convention. The General Convention was the outcome of the Council of Europe's Committee on Artificial Intelligence, CoE, and their approach is very risk-based, and they carefully considered in their recommendations any potential negative consequences of using AI systems. So this should be always required first when you start to use AI systems.
And we took it further. We built upon this CoE treaty and to draft the recommendation for the prison and probation domain. Here it is, the very long title, once again, the ethical and organizational aspects of the use of AI within our field. This is a picture of me and Pia and Fernando, and we were the expert group during this process from 2021 to 2023. And it has been a great deal of work, and I hope that this recommendation is some kind of a foundation for the further work that this sector will be doing concerning AI. So what's in the recommendation, Pia?
Yes, let's go to the content. So first of all, these are the basic tenets and principles. AI and related digital technologies should be used legitimately and proportionately when and if they contribute to the rehabilitation and reintegration of offenders. They are not supposed to replace prison and probation staff, but assist them in their everyday work, and to help the criminal justice system, the execution of penal sanctions, measures, and the reduction of recidivism. And altogether, there are 30 principles, and they are divided into 6 categories: basic principles, data protection and privacy, use for safety, security, and good order, use for offender management, risk assessment, rehabilitation and reintegration, use for staff selection, management, training and development, and last but not least, research, development, evaluation, and regular revision. And then Håkan will tell about the basic principles first.
Yeah, and just to get a feeling about this is the way that the principles are formulated within the recommendation, and I think that many of these principles are well known at this point of time when you are talking about AI, but this is aligned and adopted to the use within the prison and probation sector. So first of all, we would like to be very clear that there needs to be a respect for human rights and dignity of all persons impacted by the use of AI. And when you are using AI, you always have to aim for the least negative impact on human rights. We see that this could be a bit riskful, and it should only be done if it's strictly necessary and go back to the tenets of the principles that Pia mentioned before. You also have to have a great conformity with international standards, and which is defined by international law. There needs to be a liability for any unlawful harm caused by AI, and this should be ensured in the use, of course. Biases is a tricky part when you go to talk about AI and machine learning, and these should be prevented to ensure equality and to prevent or resolve the creation or any discrimination or inequality between individuals or groups of individuals. And then transparency is, of course, important in order to public scrutiny, and it should be monitored on a regular basis. And the outcomes of the algorithm needs to be sufficiently explainable. So these are the basic principles of the recommendation. And should you take it further, Pia?
Yes, we continue. And following these, when a decision is even if partly based on the use of AI and affects human rights, human supervision and effective complaint procedures must exist. And to avoid bias and also discrimination, the data that AI uses should be accurate and sufficiently representative of the general population and also of the minority groups. And it's also very important that the use of AI is aimed at preserving and promoting positive and beneficial human relations between staff and offenders in our field especially. And the last one has to do with AI literacy, that all AI users should understand the basics of AI, what it is, how it's used, and how it relates to my case. And what are the ethical rules and the purposes of using AI?
And talking about AI and many technologies within the ICT field is a matter of data and managing and treating and manipulating data. Therefore, in this recommendation, we have a solid part about the data protection and data privacy parts regarding AI. And here it's very important that the offenders continue to enjoy their fundamental rights, of course, and freedoms, including the right to respect for private life and the right to data protection. This is, of course, obvious, but it's very, very important to state. All key actors should comply with different data protection laws. It once again should be transparent and be able to demonstrate to the individuals concerned that they comply with the data protection principles and obligations. And data should be stored in a form that allows personal identification for no longer than it's strictly necessary to fulfill the purposes. And when you collect and the amount of personal data that you collect in order to do this algorithm it needs to be strictly necessary to fulfill a specific task. And this can be a bit tricky, and therefore it's very important for us to have this as a principle within the recommendation. It needs to be strictly necessary to fulfill a specific task, and it should be collected, stored, transmitted, or otherwise processed.
Yes. Then, regarding safety, security, and good order, I think at the moment AI is mostly used in security technique when it comes to our field in prisons. And yes, of course, AI can be used there to maintain safety, security, good order, and also for better risk and crisis management. But when using and developing systems like this to our field, it's very important to consult prison and probation services and our staff who specialists in safety and security, and what are the needs regarding the assistance that we are waiting for AI to provide us. And as you know, AI is already a lot used in electronic monitoring, including biometric recognition technologies, but use of these should be proportionate to the purpose and used only when strictly necessary. And also this should be carried out under regular human control and should be human-centered.
Another area where you can use AI, and there are a lot of different applications here, is within the field of offender management, risk assessment, rehabilitation, and reintegration. And it's important to state that AI could be used in order to manage offenders' files and particular cases and to improve monitoring and decision taking. But that the final responsibility for this remains with the professional. That is one very important principle as well. But when you're using AI applications within this field in order to increase the accuracy and the objectivity of risk assessment, the challenges regarding algorithms, biases, quality, and the quality of data should be addressed. And the results of risk assessment should only be used for risk management, going back to the specific purpose of using this data and the treatment of it. And the rehabilitation and reintegration of offenders, as well as their social contacts and medical treatment, can of course be facilitated by the use of AI, but it shouldn't replace face-to-face contact.
Yes, and then yet another field of applications, staff selection, management, training, and development. There are many different ways to use AI to optimize our processes, capacities, resources, and also to focus on supporting staff's professional development. And it can also assist managers in predicting our future needs, our future organizational capacity needs, and, for example, detecting especially problematic areas in staff resourcing or other resourcing. But it's very important that a person has the right to be informed of the reasons for decisions related to their selection, recruitment, and professional development. Of course, this is always the case that they need to be informed, but they need to be informed if these are also taken on the basis of using AI, at least partly using AI in the process. And then they should have the right to request human review in these cases.
And lastly, the sixth part of the recommendation addresses the aspects of research, development, evaluation, and regular revision. These kind of applications don't just happen by themselves. They need to be designed and developed. And we need also to put a lot of research doing this, of course. And we would like to point out that it should be sufficiently well funded and supported, and it should always be in the aim to develop further the proper and efficient use of AI within our field. But it's also important to state that its use should be evaluated at regular intervals, as well as these recommendations, of course, by independent and competent evaluators concerning the performance, the use, and the intended and unintended outcomes, and the need for adaptations, of course. And lastly, procedures and resources should be put in place in order to regularly monitor, identify, and assess the risk and the adverse effects of using AI. Yeah.
Yes. And the last principle, now the 30th principle, is that this recommendation needs to be reviewed regularly and revised accordingly in order to continue working to protect human rights and fundamental freedoms of AI's users and the safety and security of our societies. And I think this is very important because the development and use of AI is proceeding very fast. So we need to stay tuned. We need to update the recommendations, maybe even sooner than we think.
Yeah. So to sum this up, should we worry about AI in prison and probation? Is this just another silver bullet, or what is it? Of course, there is a lot of benefits, as we have touched upon. You could faster process larger data sets. You could use your resources more effectively, and you could put in a good way. You could detect security risks and aid offenders' need, of course. But on the other hand, there are a lot of risk factors. The risk of biased data, poor data quality, biased conclusions, etc. And starting from a low level and then to start to automate will not increase the quality of your business, so to speak. So there are a lot of risk factors, and we would like to stress that using AI to assist human decision making with the intention of contributing to the rehabilitation and reintegration is key, and it's very important in the ethical use of AI. And we also need to, and we can never forget about the AI literacy, and to work with the education and the knowledge within this, and for our correction staff and offenders, of course. So yeah, I stop there.
Yes, and we are almost ready. Just some references. The General Treaty, the link is there. My final work for my studies in the university, this is how I became interested in AI, that I was doing a diploma in artificial intelligence. And then with my colleague Steven van der Steen, we have written an article on AI already in 2021. And this is a literature review on what we knew that time about use of AI in prisons, and also results of a survey we did to various jurisdictions regarding their use of AI. But oh my God, it was already 4 years ago, so things have definitely proceeded. There's a need for new articles.
Yep.
So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot, the two of you, Pia and Håkan. Sounds like an interesting time, and you were saying 21 to 24, so 3 years of work. I know since EuroPris is observer at the Council of Europe that you were 4 times a year at least traveling to Strasbourg and working on the content together with the Director Generals, which were in the working group of the PCCP. So I think it was a very interesting process for you. Thanks also for showing us the chapters actually and on what chapters you were deciding. Was this something in between the drafting process, or were it from the very beginning clear that you have to, let's say, go through all these areas? Where to mention AI, you mentioned the offender aspect, the staff aspect, the research. Was that something that was set, or were you as experts asked actually to, let's say, shape the format of the recommendation?
As far as I can remember, when I joined the group, there was already some text drafted, but I think the categorization came based on what we found out during the process. So the themes were categorized afterwards. Or how do you remember, Håkan?
Yes, I would say the same thing. It was drafted the first version, and then in order to make it more concrete and more explainable from the basic principles, we needed to see how they should be adopted and used within different application and use areas, and therefore the other chapters arise and developed from this. And this was an ongoing process during these years, in order to make it clear.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. Now we are exactly on time. I would like to give the floor now as well to the audience. So are there any questions regarding the presentation now of Pia and Håkan, regarding the process with the working group drafting the recommendation? Feel free to mention now all your questions regarding the recommendation, regarding Pia and Håkan and the whole creation of the recommendation. So I know that Alicia will filter now some questions from me. So let's see if the audience has some questions. If so, please type it into the Q&A window below. So we will wait for some questions from the audience for now. And also I know we will discuss later more because you as experts were selected and you are as well in the EuroPris Expert Group, how this recommendation can be now more, be of practical use for our members, for the prison services. And that's, I think, a very, interesting aspect here as well. So, Okay, I have here, let me see, a question. Was there a consultation organized with civil society in the drafting process?
Would you like to start, Pia?
Yes, can you repeat the question, because I don't see it in the Q&A.
Question was if there was a consultation organized with the civil society in the drafting process.
I think this was based on an expert work. So the PCCP has its representatives from different countries of the Council of Europe. And then our expert group had a 3-person expert group. So this was very expert based. And I think it will be interesting, however, now afterwards hear the opinions and comments and discussions that are stemming now that the recommendations have been released, and maybe and when we have to update and revise the regulations, maybe these comments and feedback can be taken into account then.
Okay, thank you. I have another one. How would you like governments, organizations to use the recommendations? Is there a way to formally pledge support? Yeah, that's already also for our discussion later on, but maybe you have already an answer to that one.
I think that you have to start by adopting these recommendations and other binding documents within the AI topics, so to speak, within your organization. One way to start is to maybe draft a AI policy or an AI strategy within your organization where you align and to take part of this recommendation in your work. I think that is one way to go, and it could be necessary for you to make it adopted to your organization and your organizational needs.
Thank you. Okay, let's see if we have another one. We have one. Do you have suggestions as to how start down the AI path, and how do you put in governance that does not overwhelm the organization? Because everyone loves governance, but given the risks you have highlighted, it seems it will be needed.
Yes, I agree. It will be not an easy path with governance and thinking about organizations in Europe, prison services. Of course, some of them are more advanced than others, but I think we are still in the beginning, and we have to start with very basic things first, and increase the level of AI literacy first. And yes, it will be a long process. Maybe Håkan, you can continue. What do you think?
Yeah, hi Simon, and I would like to say that this is a great discussion, and I think it's more for the panel discussion. And my answer to this question is somewhat strange, but I would say that you don't start with AI when you would like to start down the AI path, because there are a whole lot of things that you need to address before. And I think that many of the use cases and the needs that you will be doing could be done within a data science project or so forth. And I think you should start small. You should take small steps. You need to learn, and you need to address the risks that we are talking about. And there, in that process, you could start your AI path, I would say. Yes.
Okay, thank you for this. I see we have a lot of other questions which we might rather address in the discussion. Maybe a last one. Let me see, regarding the recommendation. Is there a difference in how the recommendations look at data in narrow AI that can be used to analyze images or videos in human form recognition cameras, for example, versus deep AI? Where would you use AI to analyze documents, drawings, specifications, and so on? That's more the specification, yeah.
Yes, that's a very specific question. In the recommendations, and Håkan, you can correct me if I don't remember correct, but we have defined there the difference between different levels of AI, and we have used and described different examples that AI can be used in security technique, for example, the image recognition in security cameras, versus then something much more deeper used in resources management or automated decision making or something like this. But definitely, I would say that the deeper the use of AI is, the more there are also risks.
Yeah. Yes, and as Pia is saying, we try to make this to give concrete examples of different use cases and things to think about while going deeper into the use of AI. But we were not so specific that we made some difference between the narrow AI and deep AI and so forth, because it didn't have evolved to that stage when we wrote the recommendations.
Okay. Okay, thanks for that. If there are no other questions really regarding the recommendations into Pia and Håkan, I suggest we move on because we have 3 of your colleagues with us here today. So we would like to move now to the panel discussion we have. And I would like to introduce 3 other ICT experts. We have Puerto, Marian, and Jacques. So please appear now. Yeah, they are. Great, thanks for this. Puerto Solá is a data protection officer and program coordinator from the Spanish Prison Service. Very welcome. Thanks that you are with us today. We have Marian Lukavetsky. He's the chair of the EuroPris Expert Group on ICT and also a specialist in the head office for the Prison Service of Croatia. Very welcome. And we have Jacques Hansen with us, ICT manager of the Penitentiary Administration of Luxembourg. Thanks, the 3 of you, that you were able to join and share with our audience today your view on the implementation of the recommendation, and also to discuss some, of the practical, let's say, some use cases, and to discuss with us the recommendation now where it's published and now where we want to know, okay, what should we do now with it and how to use it now. Before we start, and each one of you, I suggest if you would like to add something to your introduction, feel free to do so. But for me, it was one question. When we start now, we have the recommendation, it's recently published. How would you perceive, the 5 of you, the readiness among European prisons and probation services in Europe? To adopt really AI solutions. Maybe you have already some things you could mention here to us and the audience.
Okay, maybe can I start with this and about readiness? It's hard to discuss about readiness of every prison and probation system in Europe, but we, in general, if we take a look at our prison and probation services, we are not so much advanced as maybe in other parts of the world, such as in Asia or US. But in Europe, we can divide maybe level of readiness and connect it with level of digital maturity, and say that countries that are Nordic or Scandinavian countries or Western Europe are maybe more ready and in better level of digitalization than Eastern or Balkan countries. But when we say Eastern countries are less prepared, that doesn't mean that all countries are on the same level. For example, you have from the East country for the Turkish prison service, where we had 2 very successful events in the last couple of years, and where are the country and prison service that invest a lot in digitalization of their prison services, and they can be a good role model in that area. Thank you.
The others, what do you think in terms of readiness in Europe, in the prison services all over Europe?
If I may say something, the thing for me is also, I agree with Marian. It has a lot to do with the level of digitalization that the country has, or the prison service. And I think generally we have a good level. And also it has a lot to do with, from the legal point of view, how the data protection regulation has been implemented in the prison service, that is also related.
And I can add on, I totally agree with both Puerto and Marjan, but I would also like to say that the readiness and the digital maturity, if you see it from that point of view, has developed during the last few years. I see an increase in the business needs in order to use digitization, and that will create a level of readiness within the organization. So I think there is happening a lot of positive things, and I think that you could see a lot of pockets of good examples of digital technologies and even maybe AI in some areas. So there is a development going on a positive direction, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for this. To the audience, just that you know now, there is also the possibility during we have the panel discussion to address some questions that you can raise them now regarding the overall topic in the Q&A, and we try to address, I'm picking them out just now as much as possible so that we address your question, of course. And I see one now that is asking directly, at what level is the awareness of AI and its possibilities and impact among prison authorities? What would you say, the level of awareness of AI?
I think, if I may say something, Justina, it's so I think all the prison authorities are aware of the importance of artificial intelligence because, as Håkan said before, it's this recommendation is related very close to the regulation, the European regulation of these years about artificial intelligence. And a lot of projects, European projects, are related with the development of artificial intelligence, and Europe is given a lot of support to the countries and prison authorities to develop artificial intelligence. So I think that the awareness is high, really high.
Thank you.
Maybe that's not the case in all the countries because, well, in some it might be high, some they are aware of it or in general, but if it comes to the real points, how to use it in the prison administration, I think there are countries that are not that developed yet. But of course, like Håkan said before, you need to have a level of digitalization before you can implement any issues.
I would like to add just comments on both of you regarding to the level of awareness in general in the prison services. I think that maybe the level of awareness in prison services on the national level or on the organizational level are maybe high, but then the real battle just is to begin, is to raise awareness among the staff member, among the people who work in the prison services, because the real resistance and the real questions and real resistance starts from there. It's not from the government, it's not from the decision makers, usually comes from the bottom. So I think that a real war against or start to fight with knowledge is just going to begin.
Yes, I agree with the panelists, and I would say there's already awareness. There's also interest, but the so to say the practical side is missing. So what actually concretely to do in this situation? And of course, it's also a question of what we prioritize. So it's basically a question of money and resources in the face of many other challenges that prison services are globally facing, like overcrowding and staff turnover. But I would say that even in these cases, digitalization and AI might help us, but that's a long road to go from an idea to a concrete implementation. So it will take some time still, I would say.
Yeah,
it will definitely take a lot of time There's also the question, what do we want to reach with AI? And I think there are examples that we see in other subjects where AI is really helping us. So, for example, an issue that we have in prison is we have many foreign languages, so we need to translate, can say, but there are good translation programs. The problem is that they are all online, and that's not necessarily what we want to use in a prison. So there are some countries, there are some companies who are working on that to have offline solutions, but they are by far not as good as the online systems. So I think that's something that would help tremendously in the prison environment. And also, second point is education programs. We have very many levels of knowledge from the prisoners. So we need to adapt, to make really education programs for different people on different levels. And I think their AI could help a lot to really adapt the education program to each prisoner. That would be real advantages that I see from AI.
Thanks for that. We mentioned the practical use and that it's a long way. I agree, especially in, of course, the practical field, the prison services and the public sector. And that's why we have as well here related the questions from, some questions from the participants, quite concrete. Are you using already AI? And the question was, they're mentioned, as well, in education, in translative materials, and in what other ways are prison services using already AI?
I can start. From a Swedish perspective, we have made some small steps, some pilots about how to use AI as a modern way of text editing and to make smarter articles on our web or different kind of content systems in order to learn and in order to see how we should maybe adjust the way that we are working, not so much to test to see the technology per se, but to see what kind of business development aspects could we get and in that aspect. But it's only been a pilot, and we started small, and we started within an area where we only used open and non-sensitive information. And that was one way for us to try this out.
Yes, I would say in Finland too, we are on a pilot level. And I think it has been a good idea to start small. And I would list some examples where AI is involved. First of all, I think one of the first things was actually to increase AI literacy. So we've provided our prisons so that prisoners can study a basic AI course by Helsinki University on their cell devices and on the joint use workstations. And we've recommended this course also to all our staff as a good introduction to what is AI. Then we use virtual reality. Virtual reality uses AI-based things, but I think virtual reality will proceed to become more and more important in our rehabilitation. And there are various examples that it actually works quite well. And then regarding offender management, based on my final work for my studies, I designed a preliminary version of an AI-based system that can analyze offender information and based on the information give recommendations of what kind of services, what kind of risks and needs the offender has. But this is just on a pilot level at the moment. We haven't implemented it. And then some years ago, Finnish government launched a national AI program called Aurora AI, which is a recommender system for public service providers and citizens who are looking for information and public service providers related to their life situation and their various needs. So a kind of a application and an interface to this national AI program has been also piloted with our prisoners and probationers, so they actually can still use this interface to look for information and services for their needs. And and then the last example is this training AI as prison work. So we are in collaboration with a company that provides us material, and prisoners go through this material and process it in a way that helps the company build their own algorithm. So that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, you mentioned some cases already, very practical. Do the others have some? I mean, you have also colleagues in your ICT expert groups. I know that there are some mentioning here and there examples. Jacques?
Yeah, well, I can say that in Luxembourg we also really at the beginning we are just thinking where to start with it. So I prefer to talk about projects Justina suggested from other colleagues. For example, in Ireland they have already some AI projects, and I think one of the most interesting ones is that they realized a 360-degree virtual tour of one of the prisons. So that gives a really good aspect how it looks in a prison. Yeah, that everybody can then have a look at it. And recently I read about a project in the Netherlands that I think is also very interesting, where they show pictures of real streets and houses, and also they also use AI to create other pictures and streets and show these to prisoners, like also were arrested, for example, for burglars, and they analyze a little bit which houses are the most interested for future burglars to get in. So they get a lot of information there about security or what are the weak points of houses concerning burglars. So I thought that was a very interesting project, and that's already in place in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So that would be as well your answer when it comes to how to begin the AI journey. That's also a question, use cases and ideas. How do you begin your journey? I know that you mentioned, I mean, Håkan mentioned as well some things regarding how you could start with small steps, and the countries started. Is there an advice or a recommendation where you would say, I mean, let's say I'm now a director general of a prison. Now the recommendation is out. I know AI is very much on vogue. I know this recommendation, I mean, of course, you have the ethical use. It should be effective. What would you recommend for a director general who now thinks, okay, I have, let's say, a small budget, I can do something, where to start?
This is a very interesting topic, Justina, and I think this will lead to a great discussion, I hope, because I think you can start the journey in many ways. And I said before that not to start with AI is one way to start with AI, and I hope to be able to explain this. But I would like to say that one way to start, I think you need to address the point of leadership within your organization, who will be appointed for this kind of AI journey. And one way to start is to create a strategy or a policy document in order to find what are the different business needs that you would like to address. What would you like to solve? What are the different use cases from your perspective that is interesting for your agency? And when you have this clear, then you know the priorities, you know the use cases, you know what you would like to do. And then I think you really need to, going back to the question from Simon before, you need to establish some kind of governance framework, because I think that this area need to be governed or regulated, and you have to address certain questions about your data governance, your data quality, and all these kind of stuff. And I think that could be done within establishing a simple governance framework in order not to go wrong on while embarking on your journey. And then from many of my conversations that I have had, many of the needs that you would like to implement with AI could be solved by other means. It could be solved by a data science project. It could be solved by a BI project. And then you could start your journey towards AI by not doing very complicated AI applications. And on this journey, you will learn more, you will take small steps, and you will then be ready. You will have the awareness, the readiness in order to start with an AI application. So these are a few pointers and a few things to think about starting your journey on an AI path.
For me, I think, sorry, for me, I think that it's also a very good idea, and it can help to take part in European consortiums or projects, because in this way you can learn what is being done in other countries and in other jurisdictions, and it's really a good way to learn about other experiences, and that's so the European Union is developing that a lot. And also I'm completely with Håkan when he says that you have to make very short steps, very small steps, and with the less impact in human rights. So when you control these very small steps, maybe you know what to do, and you realize that you don't need artificial intelligence for big issues. You know?
Yes, I would continue that. I liked Håkan's idea that to start with AI, don't start with AI, but start with something else. Organization must first think about what are our needs. Where would we need a solution from digitalization or maybe even AI? I give one concrete example. I think this is same the situation in many jurisdictions and in many prison services, that lawyers process a lot of complaints from our offenders and customers regarding different things. And the process of going through the complaints takes a lot of time. The process is slow, and it's not a good thing for our staff. It's not a good thing for the ones that complain. Would there be a tool that would help with this kind of process, to process the material, the text material related to the case? And this is exactly the way how AI can assist decision makers and our staff to do these kind of processes faster, for example.
Thank you. Thanks. I think it was very stimulating what you were saying, and as well the slogan. I think it's stays here now to start with AI without using AI. That's a little bit also the question regarding the implementation. What steps should be taken to implement the recommendation effectively? But that's similar to what you maybe said, Håkan. I'm thinking as well of the other aspects when it comes to education or training, or let's say a guidance for staff. What would be maybe their recommendation how to start? You mentioned the guidelines or the governance, and what would be when it comes to staff and giving them something on hand to support them? Would you have a recommendation there? Or?
Shall I start?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. I don't have any practical or concrete examples on how to do this. I just would like to say that it is very important, and one way to do this is to involve the training for the staff within the development project, and you could also have practical simulations and to recommend it to expose staff to realistic scenarios where AI usage is relevant. So you see how it could be used within your domain or within your application. And these kind of exercises could both strengthen your understanding and the ability to make ethical decisions. And just to have a dialogue about this, to make it concrete and practical, I think is one way. And also talking about the maybe the risks of using it, to understand how it should be addressed within your organization. And as well, I also think that what Pia is mentioning before, to have kind of different educations and have the inmates training AI models to train data or models, that is one way to increase the digital maturity, to build a greater understanding for inmates, both regarding digital services, but understanding of AI as well. So that could also be one way to introduce more digital activities within the prison, and also address the literacy about AI.
I also think that training is basic for inmates. That's a really good idea because they are going to be aware of what artificial intelligence involves, and also for officers and authorities. I mean, every one of us should know what this means, the risk, the possible benefits, but also the risk. And I think training is so losing the fear to know about artificial intelligence and what it involves.
We have a very specific question, a concrete example from the audience regarding ChatGPT. The state of Baden-Württemberg in Germany is offering a local ChatGPT alternative that can be used with client data personal files. It's available to all prisons and parole aid offices in Baden-Württemberg, but not well known by workers yet. Would you recommend advertising this to our workers without prior training to reduce the risk of them using ChatGPT instead? Or is domain-specific training always necessary in advance? So that's related to the staff training. So it seems like prison officers' services are making it available or using it. Any opinions on that from your side?
But I think the question, maybe I didn't understand something, but I think the point here is what is the use of this instrument? So for what are they using this? For making files or risk assessment or?
Yeah, I mean, it says, would you recommend advertising this to your workers without prior training to reduce the risk of them using ChatGPT instead? So it's about if you would train all your prisons and parole officers. So there it is made available in a local ChatGPT alternative.
I think, as we mentioned before, so local systems like that are very, very important for prisons, and it's always worth talking about that and promoting them. Now we have to look deeper into this, but of course it's a big risk when colleagues, just because there are no other systems, that they use ChatGPT and they are not aware of the risk of an online system. So I think it's very good promoting such solutions.
And I would like to add on there, because I think if I understand the question correctly, you have a local ChatGPT with the use of sensitive client data. And in that aspect, I would recommend training before using this kind of system, because even if you think that you know what you are putting for questions to the ChatGPT, maybe you don't see the different consequences of using it. So I would really stress that you need to address training before introducing this kind of application.
Yes, I think so too, and that's in line with the Council of Europe recommendations, that training first, and otherwise it can happen that the local chat GPT starts to steer the process too much, and that is exactly what is the risk, that it will start to steer the process, and staff don't pay attention as much as they should when they use AI systems, and also to tell what is the difference between the general chat GPT use. Can it be used for something, and which things, and then what's the difference when you use the local chat GPT? So all these things are very important. Yes.
I agree with Håkan and Pia now, and I think that okay, it's great to have a local chat GPT, but there are a lot of risks that need to be taken in consideration before start using it. And I think that regarding to AI, there is a lot of potential risks, and that all of them need to be first checked and then start using it. So that's my opinion about it.
Yeah, I agree with all these remarks. So it's a little bit the same show like ChatGPT, or as we were talking before about translation programs. So I've seen some local solutions, and I must say they are still not as good as other systems that everybody from us knows and uses maybe in daily life. But the risk is really, it's important to train the people, and that they know that they should not put sensitive data on public solutions.
Jacques, may I just add to? Yeah, but I would put a line between using some translation and using the ChatGPT for some risk assessment or things like that, because most of us were pushed to use different translation services because needs. You have 50 or 60 different nationalities in your prison service, and you cannot cover all the languages. So you need help from the AI or other technology. But to make risk assessment or something like this with ChatGPT or AI, it's not need to be pushed. It's something that you have time to consider about it and then make a decision.
Okay, that's getting very interesting here. I have here another question, more maybe about the challenges, risks, biases. How can we avoid biases using AI in judicial procedures?
That's a very good question. And that's a very important point. Biases, it's, as Håkan and Pia presented before, it's a key question here in artificial intelligence. And it's very difficult to detect. And I think the solution is to what they told. So it's to evaluate permanently the instruments you are using, if you have decided to use it, because maybe it's not necessary, but if you have decided to use it, to make it the more transparent you can, and to really evaluate it. There are very good articles that also say that artificial intelligence has biases. It's something we have to accept, and that's not only the problem. Is that we train ourselves in the use of these instruments. We train ourselves to use the biases of artificial intelligence. So we have the same biases as the instrument that we are using. So we have to be really aware of that, and really to think if we need these instruments in judiciary procedures and for what. That's the main thing. And to be really alert.
I think to build upon what you are saying, I go back to one of the points before. I think it's very easy, very important to start small and to keep control of your data quality, your data governance, and to regularly reassess and review what you're doing. So within your small project, the small step that you are doing, make sure that you are learning and that you can see the biases and you can evaluate these kind of things within your application, because I think it's important to always learn during the way in order to avoid these kind of failures or risks.
Yeah, thanks for your answers. The chat is now getting more and more active. I pick another one for you, for the panel. If you look ahead 5 to 10 years, is it possible to avoid AI in prison and probation? Staff is already lacking, and AI is being integrated more and more in everyday life products like smartphones, office software, etc.
Okay, I can start maybe with this one. I don't like to make predictions in 5 or 10 years in the future, but in this case, I think that it's obvious that we will hard to avoid AI in our prison services in general in our lives. The best example is the use of translator. The most countries use the translator already, because it's not because there was strategic decision to go with AI, but because they need it. And AI is popping up in more and more with more and more opportunities that we can use. And I believe that no matter what, but in 5 to 10 years, we will have much more usage of AI in the prison service than we expect to.
Yes,
I also believe that you cannot avoid it.
Sorry, Jacques, please continue.
I think you cannot avoid it. Maybe some will have the usage of AI more integrated, more different projects, but as Marian also said, so at least in translations or others also like in education or so, I think it will really come that you cannot really avoid it. You can do a little bit more, you can do a little bit less, but you cannot avoid it. So your turn, Pia.
Yes, thanks, Jack and Marian, and I agree with you that we cannot avoid it. And if we avoid it, I think it's a big risk too, because then we are really lacking behind the rest of the society, which is definitely not good for prison service if we don't develop with the same pace as the rest of the society. This is already a challenge that, for example, regarding digitalization in general, many jurisdictions and prisons are lacking behind the development of the rest of the society. And it produces many problems. So that's not what we want. And I would say we have to take care that our AI level will not lack too much, at least not too much behind the society.
Thank you. So we can't avoid it. That's what you're saying. We have someone from the probation field, as it seems, being worried with one thing. Let me address it. What if a government decides that it would be cost effective to automate more of probation? So, for example, use more in-person monitoring, less face-to-face and personal contact. Would that the human rights approach allow from the Council of Europe? And would a concern about cost effectiveness justify a government in saying automation and AI has become strictly necessary?
I can start here. Thank you for this question. I think this is a very interesting one. I would reason that it will not allow you to do this from a cost effectiveness perspective. In that area, it will not will never be strictly necessary, because the recommendations clearly states that it should contribute to the rehabilitation and reintegration of offenders. And also, it should not replace prison and probation staff, but assist them in their everyday work. And in this example, in this question, you would like to prioritize more impersonal monitoring and less face-to-face work, and that is not, from the way that I see it, a way to assist staff, but to replace them. So I would like to argue that this is not strictly necessary.
Now, into the times where we have more and more, maybe in Asia, I know that there's more progress in AI there. Really, the scenario robots opening cells, bringing food in. I think this is also something what maybe appears directly in people's head, and it is an aspect regarding how to create not more and more distance, for example, between staff and prisoners, as staff still has this observing function in this human contact, being all the time in touch. So it is, I think, something what you strived up upon. And yeah, would you like to add something? It could be also a fear in our participants here. So we are not that far in Europe, but of course it's one of the questions coming up more and more.
I think I completely sorry, Pia. Sorry. You.
Oh, you go.
No, I think that I completely agree with Håkan that for a prison regime, an ordinary prison regime, human contact is basic, and so the continuity of staff development and the staff presence and so human contact is really important. But for example, I think when I think of artificial intelligence instruments, maybe it could improve electronic monitoring outside. And in this way, it will help people to feel more free outside prisons. I know in open regimes, and so I think there are other developments, other fields for application that it could be a good use. But I mean, inside prisons, I completely agree with Håkan's perspective.
Yeah, there's also, we have a concrete example of a recently built prison that opened like 2 years ago, and of course planification started long before that, and AI was maybe not, was surely not at the point where it is now, but systems already existed with opening doors automatically based on recognition from cameras, tracking the prisoners where they are inside the different buildings. And there it has been clearly said that this would be a lack of contact with the staff, and that's not wanted. So this kind of technology has not been built in. It was preferred to have more staff to have the contact with the prisoners. So even if you could have saved some money with technology, with AI, with the systems that existed at that point, and I guess it was the right.
Yes, I would also continue that using lack of money and resources as an excuse to replace humans in the rehabilitative work with AI, that would be against almost all the principles listed in the Council of Europe recommendations. So what Håkan said, I completely agree that we should look at it from this perspective. And of course, I know that prison cultures and are very different in different parts of the world. So Asian culture is already quite different from European or for example, Nordic, Scandinavian prison culture. And of course, Council of Europe recommendations regard Council of Europe's member countries. So we need to take care of our member countries first.
I would just like to add something very short about the question from the probation officer. And as economists would say, there is no such things as a free lunch. So it is similar with the progress that is brought with technology. So no matter how significant the progress brought by the new technology is, it always comes with a package of possible risks. So I know there are many risks and that we can discuss each of them separately, but maybe just to mention the first risk, if we look at is change resistance to change. And if we compare this risk with the risk of over-reliance on AI, so there is something in between. It says that AI is a tool, it's not replacement for human judgment, so always has to be supervised. So they should not be scared for their work or they will be replaced by robots or human intelligence, I think.
Sorry, we have one that a person have heard here from our audience that there are already AI-based psychological services available and that inmates and clients have been positive about it. Our participant would like to know if you, the panel, know anything about it already.
No, I haven't heard of anything like that. And I think I don't know the other colleagues, but so from my point of view, in this kind of intervention, I think human contact is a priority.
Yeah, I've heard that some systems exist or being tested, but we don't have that at all yet.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't heard that AI-based psychological work, so that you actually replace a psychologist with an AI-based thing like a chatbot or avatar or virtual therapist. I think this is what the one that put the question there meant. I haven't heard that this would have been used in prisons, but I know as a psychologist that this kind of pilots have been used in other areas. And some of the feedback is actually also good. For example, one feedback was that talking to a therapist can be in some cases easier, and the way the therapist, virtual therapist, does the work can be more objective. So these are just, of course, opinions, and as a psychologist, I know that everybody is an individual, and I definitely think that human contact is the priority anyway. But it's not surprising that some people actually also benefit from virtual therapists.
Okay. When it comes to the legal perspective, I know, Perto, you have a legal background, for example. What potential challenges you would see there and might arise when you think of this aspect?
Well, from the legal point of view, I think there are a lot of different challenges. And for me, the most, the big problem is with the risk assessment instruments. Because when the prison administration makes a decision based on artificial intelligence instruments, I think it's more complicated for the inmates to defend themselves against the decision made, because it's very difficult to understand the algorithm. So I think that's the main problem I see. And also there's a risk of standardizing the decisions, because the recommendation, of course, it tells us the good way, no, to have always this human control about above the machine, above the algorithm. But sometimes it's very difficult, and most when we speak about prisoners to make a decision against the machine, that's complicated. So I think these are the two main risks or challenges I see.
Okay, Thank you, Puerto. And another one, that is also something what we were thinking and discussing in preparation of this webinar. Always we have to take the perspective of our members. So now many institutions have maybe limited budgets. We strived upon this a little bit today. What would you say, and how can these constraints be addressed to make it available and to enable that AI can be adopted in this service?
Okay, may I start? And thank you for this question. Yeah, the budget is definitely one of the key factors that determines whether and what extent we will embrace our journey of transforming our prison under the guidance of AI. So when it comes to AI, the situation is sometimes very similar to planning an ICT innovation. It involves common challenges that often take precedence when addressing the priorities, because ICT or AI as a part is always expensive. So for example, in the cases of significant overcrowding, it is difficult to negotiate a budget for innovation that do not directly contribute to solving the primary issue. So when you have the big overcrowding, asking the budget for AI could be very hard. So, but if we forgot about such challenges for a moment and think proactively, the first thing I have to highlight is the strategic planning for the budget. So you have to be part or rely on the, for example, for digital strategy or national plan or things like that, to have covered the future digitalization or digital transformation of your public administrations. But if you look only at measures that you can put from the sides of practitioners related to budget, you can always start small. You can start with a pilot project, small scale, low cost pilot projects to demonstrate the value of AI and build a case for further investment for the further case to ask for more money. So focus your area of AI where you can quickly create some benefits. So other suggestion may be the phase implementation. So break down your AI adoption through the different area of the different timelines, so different projects and different budgets. So you can spread the costs to be a little down. So also one of the things we can discuss about is to share the costs. For example, promote interagency collaboration, allowing multiple institutions or even countries to share costs to work together. So, and the last one, maybe when we discuss about the budget, should be definitely a recommendation is external funding. Whenever we can find or we can go for EU funding, would be recommendable.
I see your colleagues are agreeing, head nodding. Yeah, budget is definitely a thing, but it's good that you mentioned. Jacques, you wanted to say something, I see.
Yeah, I think it would be good to think more about, like we were talking about translation programs. I think that's something that basically each and every country would need. So to really put budgets together, and so that would be a great idea. There's definitely need for it.
And I can just to add on to Marjan's comprehensive answer to this important question is to, when you're doing the strategic planning or the putting up the activities for your AI projects, don't forget the other ones surrounding this, as we have mentioned before, about governance, legal, data quality, and so forth. Because maybe in the first project you just need an application in order to test and to get some result. But in the next and the next and the next project, then you need more competence, you need more capabilities within your organization. So I think that you should address them at first to start with, to start building your knowledge and your capability of digital development and AI from the start.
Thanks for this insights. I believe that's really relevant also for our practitioners, for our audience. Maybe the last two questions. We have someone who is thanking you all for this valuable insights. I'd like to revisit a point that has been mentioned several times, the importance of planning and prioritizing how AI is applied. Could you share how this process is unfolded, for instance, in Sweden or Finland or other countries? What lessons do you think could be particularly helpful for European colleagues?
Should I start, Pia, or do we do it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can start.
Yes. We started this. We have to back a few years in time. We had a older IT, very technological strategy for the Swedish Prison and Probation Service, and we had the need to twist this to be very much more business oriented, and so we made, as a first step, our digitization strategy. And when we did this, we had some elements of pretty innovative AI applications within it, but we didn't mention and we did not put the label AI on it, but we talked about some use cases. We used some kind of storytelling techniques on how the day-to-day operations for an inmate was within the future prison, and how the inmate could interact with a smart digital service, an AI, right? Like a digital assistant or a digital coworker, so forth. This was a way for us to start dialogue in order to increase the digital maturity within the agency. Now, a few years later, we have started a work with our AI policy. We have waited for the recommendations to be binding because this gives us a solid foundation to start our strategic work on. So now we are, as we speak, doing this AI policy work, and that is one way for us to have a cross-functional dialogue within the agency to talk about the different use cases, the different hurdles, the different challenges, and what would be our aim when we are talking about the planning and the prioritization of AI. And this it gives a great dialogue. It's a lot of engagement, passion, many good ideas, and I think this creates a great force and a direction for our digital development, because everything about this is not only AI, it's also good ideas to how to work with smarter digital services in order to facilitate for the business. So it comes with a lot of great other effects and results, but the work that we now are doing is concentrated to an AI policy, and it will be put in place here during the spring. And when it's done, we're happy to share, of course, what the results of this work has been doing. So, yeah, thanks.
Yes, I think a bit similar process in Finland, that we went step by step. And we also used a lot of pilot-like projects and piloted these things innovatively. And that we also involved our offenders, prisoners, and staff in our units into the process. And I think that first of all, we recognized the need to digitalize prison services and services provided to prisoners, digital services, and nowadays we call it digital rehabilitation. And I think also COVID-19 was, I would say it was the final digital leap for us, that suddenly we realized that actually we do rely a lot on digital services, remote services, online services. And post-COVID area has shown that we are not going back in time, but the need for these is increasing, and AI is the next step in digitalization. And as I mentioned, we've had several AI pilot projects and initiatives that I think have worked quite well, even though it's quite small scale, but still the benefits are recognizable. And yes, I would say start small and recognize recognize first what are your priorities, what are your most important needs. And as I explained already earlier, we are facing all over Europe similar problems with overcrowding and staff turnover and challenges in our resources. But I still think digitalization can at least partly help in these challenges, and also AI can help with these challenges. So this is what I would say.
Thank you. Thank you all for your comments. I would now say we move to the last question, and each one of you, if you want, you can have a final statement, feel free. So you are now all ICT experts in EuroPris, and I think this is a good question maybe to start with for our chair. You are in a way, representing also other ICT experts in Europe. You're connecting European experts. How can ICT experts working in prisons collaborate together more effectively and to exchange this knowledge and tools for the AI adoption? So that's an interesting one.
Thank you for this question, Stina. But this question could be very interesting, but I can also start by asking counter questions. Why are we here today? So recommendations came into force a few months ago, and we as a group decided to react immediately and organize this webinar. So despite the fact that we had the Christmas holidays in between and that this is just one step, but it's a great one. So the start of my answer is the organization of different types of events, such as conferences, workshops, roundtable, or even this webinar. Our first steps, how can we support prison community in the topics related to AI? But that's the only one of the steps. There is more different levels which could be done. So for example, one of the first ideas that comes to mind is certainly to create or format some kind of knowledge sharing platforms. Why? Because we can share different resources, like protocols, guidelines, tools, or materials for staff training and things like that. Because that first came to mind because we are currently having some similar project in Croatia regarding to VR, in which we are, as one of the goals, we set up the idea to create a similar platform or network for sharing the knowledge about VR. So why not try to do this similar regarding to AI? But that's not all the points. For maybe we can try even in the future if this could be possible. So to try maybe pilot projects on multinational levels. So why not collaborate together to create, for example, AI tool for risk assessment that would be joined with shared cost and shared knowledge, etc. But international projects leads to what? Leads us to standardization and interoperability. So that's the really hard question, because we should work together to develop some standardized frameworks. But this is not easy to achieve, given that enormous structural, organizational, and cultural difference between our prison services. So, as well as the different degrees of digital maturity in our prison services. So, if anyone succeeds that to create some standardized framework, so it would be great for our whole prison community, I think. Anyone can continue. I think that I said enough.
I agree with you, Maya, that standardizations that will be very difficult. I mean, we have seen that on other levels. Maybe we should concentrate on what we were talking before. Some software, for example, offline software that everybody needs. I think everybody needs the translation softwares being other languages in it, but the base of the software is still the same. So that's for me a point where we should start thinking more deeply into it, how we can attack this. It's my point of view.
Thank you, Jacques. Okay.
Yes, I like the idea of collaborating to find from a business need, find a way to do a joint project together with different member countries. It could be very interesting. Or another way could be to take these recommendations and make them even more concrete, put them into a handbook, make them like a governance framework for the different member countries to use together. And that could be one project to collaborate on as well, to make these more accessible and usable for us.
That's a good suggestion with the handbook. I like that. Thanks. Puerto?
Yes.
Or Pia?
Puerto first.
Puerto first.
I agree with all of my colleagues. And also, as I said before, I think also that being part in consortiums and in European projects can help to meet other colleagues involved in the same problems as your services. So it really helps.
Yes, I agree with my colleagues. I think sharing knowledge, sharing best practices is what this EuroPris ICT Expert Group work is about. And that's what we've done. And I hope we get stronger and stronger in the future with this collaboration. And also sometimes I think that, of course, everybody is concentrated on his or her own country and developing something there. But if you can develop something that could be shared with other countries, digitalization and AI are more shareable things than many other things, thanks to digitalization. So, for example, developing something that could be jointly used in many countries, OMS systems, for example, that we could have some kind of a joint systems or some components that are shared. That would be interesting, and that would maybe make the work we are doing more, how would I say, even on the same level in different countries if we could share our practices more in this way.
Okay, thanks to all of you. Thanks, Pia, for mentioning the OMS. I think there's something exciting coming up. So you as a group, you will have the workshop on OMS in Croatia in the beginning of April. So I think that's also something where our participants, our audience has a chance to engage more with you, to discuss further these topics. I think for us, it's now time to wrap up this webinar. Thank you all for your insightful contributions today. I think it was a very lively discussion, and thanks also for the important questions from the audience, from the participants here regarding the Council of Europe's recommendation and the more practical use and the implementation in prisons and probation services. I think we have quite rich discussion, good question, and we covered a quite broad spectrum from the readiness, that was more the beginning, of the institutions to adopt AI, but also the practical steps, maybe strategies needed to implement these recommendations, and also the budget. So I think we had some good topics here. Thanks for all your contributions, the speakers. We explored a lot of things together, AI use cases, and also some legal aspects. And now it's clear where we have challenges, but also chances, I think, regarding the implementation of the AI recommendation. We will definitely put the recommendation, as we sent already to our participants, on the page, on the event page, together with the recording as well of this webinar. So that's something I wanted to stress. We will also have a report, so feel free from time to time to check on our homepage where we have kind of a summary of this event, so you are able to share it with your colleagues in prisons and say something about this workshop and that you were part in this. So thanks again to all the speakers and participants for your time and the expertise. I would like to ask now all the participants, since you are still here in the room, I see, to fill out a small evaluation form for us. So Alicia, Brody, they will show us now a QR code, please help us, because for us it's always important if we have your feedback in order to create further events for you, webinars and in-person events. To have your feedback, please help us to improve and fill in the poll. If you would like to be more involved in EuroPris, visit our website. There you can find also the expert group page of this group, the ICT experts. So europris.org, and then under expert groups, please subscribe to our newsletter. There we always keep you informed about upcoming activities in EuroPris. The newsletter comes every second month. We are also on LinkedIn. Feel free to follow us there. Then you're always updated about where we are and what we do. And as I said already, recordings, video, and summary report will be shared. So I still stay here in the call for those who fill in this evaluation form. Thanks again a lot for the discussions, and appreciate that you were signing in today. Hope you have a nice evening and a nice week, and I hope you all received a broad overview of the implementation of the AI recommendation in prisons. Thanks a lot and see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.